Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias.
Well, in an attempt to gather up all my Barlows in one location, I've gone through my collection. I've pulled out all the Barlows as part of this ramble I'm going to be doing on Barlows. Now, have I said Barlow enough? Probably not. In any case, what I'm doing is eventually I'm going to break these down by manufacturer. That's the way I'll probably end up showing them. But before I get started with that, I thought what I would do is go a little bit about the pattern itself, because there was I actually had questions about it. It's about the size of the bolster and everything else, and what makes a Barlow, and there was a couple of things that people said, and that was from the other ramble, by the way. In any case, I'm going to stick with the classic definition, which is similar to this. This is the one by Colonel Kuhn, made by Bear & Son, but it is labeled for Colonel Kuhn. This one, as you can see there, Colonel Kuhn knives. In any case, this is what I'm thinking of for the standard Barlow. It'll be either 3 3/8 inches or 3.5 inches long, and typically we'll have a clip blade and a pin blade, a pin secondary blade. Now, and then a bolster that takes up about a third or at least a fourth of the handle area. You know, so a steel bolster or a nickel silver bolster or something like that. And then you have the handle. And it's basically a a bare-headed swell-in knife with a large bolster. That's the way I see the Barlow. Now, the difference between a Barlow and a bowie knife, I might end up throwing that in with this whole Barlow thing, but these are a couple examples of bowie knives. And bowie knives, by definition, I think there's a couple things to consider for a bowie knife. The first one being, it is a swell-in jack. Does it need to have bolsters? Not necessarily. Most of them were just stamped metal covers, and most of them seem to have had some kind of removable bail or clevis on the end, and most of them are a single spear-headed blade. And the typical size of a bowie knife was under 3 inches, 3 inches or under. So that is what I think of as a bowie knife. However, a bowie's knife might be as much as 3 3/8 inches long or so. But the big deciding factor of a bowie's knife was that it was an inexpensive knife, almost a throwaway knife. It was basically a very inexpensive knife, semi-well made, often just a stamped metal body, and designed to be sold at a very low price so that any boy would be able to buy it. That to me is a boy's knife. Is a Barlow a boy's knife? I think it is very much related to it in that they're both, at least many of them were made to be very inexpensive, such as what we have here. This is the Bombshell Barlow. These are still only like $4.99, and it was something to appeal to young boys and stuff. So Barlows were a type of boy's knife, but a specific type of bare-headed swell-end jackknife. The difference also is most Barlows, at least most American Barlows, have 2 blades. Now, obviously, these days you will find plenty of Barlows that have a single blade. But I think these single blade Barlows are more associated with Sheffield, England. And I've only got one such knife. I showed another one too, which many people said was more like an English jack, regardless of what it was being called. And I'm going to go with that as well. And the English jack is also a type of swell-in knife, but we don't know what the original English Barlow looked like. It was made back in the 1600s, I believe, and all we know is that it had a reinforced bolster. we don't know what that even meant as a reinforced bolster, you know. But this is what most people think of when they hear an English Barlow, you know. Again, a swell end jackknife with an elongated Barlow, an elongated bolster, not necessarily extremely long, but longer than your typical bolster. And it does have a bolster of some kind normally. But the British can call a Barlow anything they want. Same with many other companies. And then it has a clip blade. Most often they will have a clip blade. If it has a lamb's foot blade or something like that, then it's called a lamb's foot knife. But the Barlow, typically the English Barlow has a clip blade. Now, American Barlows, well, they had, you're just as often seeing a spear blade on American Barlows even a while back, but typically most of them will have that clip blade going for them. Now, another thing that I'm starting to see more and more of these days is the baby Barlow, and those are smaller Barlows. They're basically a smaller version of the same knife. In this case, it's got the exact same blades and everything else. And if you were to see this on eBay or something and they did not say the size of the knife, you may not be able to tell that from, say, do I have it here? Well, let's go with this one. That from this. This is US Classics Barlow. It comes in right over 3 inches long. Basically, it comes in at 3 1/16 of an inch. So I would say that's 3 inches. But the blades on here, you've got a clip blade and a pin blade, just like you see on a regular old Barlow here. So, you know, clip blade and a pin blade. Bolster size and everything else. This just looks a little slimmer. The other thing I'm starting to see more and more is locking Barlows. This is a Lockback Barlow. This is a baby Barlow as well. This one's only 2 7/8 inches. This is in the Stonework series by Rough Rider. Single blade, clip blade again, but it locks. But this is a baby Barlow, so it's a little off the standard. The standards are 3 3/8 inch or 3 1/2 inches. Then the other one we have, and this one has been around for quite some time, and this is really more in the folding hunter line of knives. And these are typically referred to as a daddy Barlow or a granddaddy Barlow or a master Barlow or even just a big Barlow. And they are 5 inches long closed. The dimension of the bolster is a little bit less than what you see on here. This bolster is, I think, what is it, an inch and a quarter, something like that. Yeah, inch and a quarter, so about a fourth. Whoa, let's have a disaster here. About a fourth of the length of the knife, as opposed to about a third. So that's the difference. You do see that it still has a clip blade. Now, I have seen the occasional Master Barlow or a Granddaddy Barlow that has a secondary blade. One of them I saw actually had a fish scaler on it. But typically, these will almost always have just a single clip blade. I think I've also seen one with a Spear Master blade. These are relatively, well, compared to your standard Barlows, these are somewhat rare. It's much easier to find a Chinese-made Daddy Barlow than it is to find a USA-made Daddy Barlow. So that's where I am with these with the Barlow collections and everything. Now, to date, I have an equal number of USA-made Barlows compared to Chinese-made Barlows. So I have 26 USA-made Barlows, at least as far as I can tell. I might have a few more out there. And I have a total of 26 Chinese-made Barlows. And then I have one made in Japan and then this one out of Sheffield, England. I think I might have another one out of Sheffield, England too, hiding somewhere. But that's the total number that I have that I can tell at the moment. To break this down a little bit more, I have 2 Chinese-made baby Barlows, one by US Classics and one by Rough Rider. I do not have any American baby Barlows, none from USA. The only company I know that is making a baby Barlow currently in the United States is Bear & Son, and I do plan on picking up at least one of the Bear & Son baby Barlows because, well, they make one. As for daddy Barlows, I have 2 master Barlows that are USA made. So out of all those, I've got a total of 11 of them. 9 of them are made in China. 2 of those are made in the United States. Of the Chinese-made standard Barlow or 3.5 or 3 3/8 inch Barlow, that number is just 16. So now you know why this ramble on Barlows might take a little time, especially considering I'm still buying Barlows. Of the USA made knives, there's only 2 patterns I have more of than Barlows. The first would be toothpicks, and the second would be scout knives. So does that make Barlows my 3rd favorite pattern? Maybe, but there might be some other things going on with this too, because Barlows are easier to find than some of the other patterns out there, especially when it comes to large toothpicks. I much prefer a large toothpick. I really love the large toothpick. It is my favorite knife, but I have more scout knives than I have large toothpicks that are made in the United States, and it's simply because those are easier to find than a large toothpick. Barlows are easier to find than a large toothpick as well. But in any case, thought I would get over this right now, and then in the next episode I will start breaking down by manufacturer. And like I mentioned before, I think I'm going to start with Camillus. We'll see.
Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.